is the Celebrity Afterlife Report podcast.
Hello and welcome to yet another edition of the Celebrity Afterlife Report. I am the Celebrity Medium. This was a busy week in the next world, so I have some fresh gossip about some of your favorite deceased celebrities to tell you about. As I'm sure you know, comedian actor Robin Williams passed over this past week. I mentioned several times in past editions of the report that soul brother number one, James Brown, has given himself the unofficial title of greeter to the afterlife. Seems James is always present when a celebrity arrives in the next world, and this past week was no exception. Often he's joined by a crowd to welcome the new arrival to his or her new home. According to my sources, the crowd on hand was much larger than usual this past week. One of my sources estimated that there were many thousands of people waiting for Robin's arrival. Brief moments after he arrived on the scene, actress Lauren Bacall came along right behind him. The crowd erupted into applause for the two of them, and a source tells me that he could see tears in Robin's eyes. Ms. Bacall seemed similarly touched, I'm told. The sentimentality was broken after a few seconds when someone in the crowd yelled out, "Hey Robin, Nanu Nanu!" The comedian laughed and said jokingly, "Oh no, I thought I left that shit behind me on Earth." From there he was off and running, launching into one of his signature comedic stream of consciousness routines. I'm informed that he wrapped it up by including Bacall in a hilarious, spontaneous parody of her famous "You Know How to Whistle, Don't You, scene? We're all familiar with the social fads that earthly plane teenagers adopt from time to time. Well, as it turns out, young folks in the next world are no different from their living counterparts in that respect. One of my afterlife sources could barely contain his amusement as he related the latest fad to sweep the youth on his side of the Great Divide. Apparently, the latest trend with next world youth is to dress like Mahatma Gandhi. That's right. On any busy street in the afterlife, one is likely to see dozens of young people, male and female, wearing a cloth wrapped around themselves and little else in the style of the great Indian leader. Sandals, I'm told, are optional, with some choosing to go barefoot. My source tells me that some of the wannabe Gandhis are adopting his style ironically, while others are doing it in apparent sincerity. My source didn't know how the fad started, only able to tell me that it first appeared a few months ago and has grown considerably since then. As of now, I have no word on what Mr. Gandhi thinks about his many young imitators. There's a bit of a kerfuffle going on in the next world these days, and it involves one of my afterlife paparazzi sources. As I've told you about in previous episodes of the report, the late rapper Tupac Shakur developed an interest in cooking since he arrived in the next world, and eventually opened his own restaurant, which has become extremely popular with the fine dining set. Most evenings find Tupac greeting guests to the restaurant and escorting them to their table personally. According to my source, however, Mr. Shakur shows preference to the rich and famous over the average Joes who come to his upscale restaurant. The source says that he took his wife to Pac's place to celebrate their anniversary recently. He says that the two had a reservation made weeks in advance and that he told the staff he wanted it to be a very special evening. When he arrived, however, he said he and his wife were made to wait for over an hour, while more famous people who arrived after them were seated immediately. When the source and his wife were finally allowed into the dining room, they were given a table next to the kitchen, where the swinging door hit his wife on the arm repeatedly during the course of their meal. He complained to Tupac, who shrugged and said, "Hey, you got in, didn't you?" As word of my sources' complaints about Tupac's alleged treatment of the non-famous spread through the afterlife, legendary showman P.T. Barnum sensed an opportunity to promote his own restaurant/entertainment complex. After my outraged source wrote letters to the editor of various Next World newspapers, Barnum took out full-page ads with the giant headline, "We don't discriminate at PT's place." The ads go on to proclaim that Barnum's restaurant seats people on a first-come, first-served basis and not based on how famous you were on the earthly plane. I cannot imagine that now that Barnum has picked this fight with Tupac, that we won't be hearing a lot more about this story as it evolves. Okay, that's going to do it for the Celebrity Afterlife Report for this week. Please come back next week for more of the juiciest gossip about all your favorite deceased celebrities. I am the Celebrity Medium. Thanks for listening.
You've been listening to the Celebrity Afterlife Report podcast. To ask a question about your favorite deceased celebrity, call 818-3-MY-DREAM. 818-3-MY-DREAM. 818-369-3732.